Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Night of the Podcast. Whoa!
Holy shit. It's been a fucking minute, hasn't it? Oh my God. It's been a damn minute, Troy, since I've been sitting here looking at your beautiful face, looking right back at me.
I know. It has been a while. Yes. It feels like ages. Like it literally feels like years. I don't know what's.
A lot is 4 years later.
Yeah, a lot has happened since we recorded last. We had Houston Horror Film Festival. I started back to school. It just feels like an eternity since we were together recording an episode. Obviously, we spent the Houston Horror Film Festival together. Had a fabulous time. That was an experience to end all experiences. For you especially, being there for the first time as a filmmaker, having a film screen, it was just a phenomenal time. I cherished the weekend greatly.
Oh my God, it was really wonderful. And it was such a different experience being there representing one's work, which I've really not gotten to do a lot of at all. And what better film festival to pop my filmmaker cherry and then Houston Horror, and such a wonderful experience. I met so many great people this year. I really feel like this is the year I got to mingle a bit, which was kind of, I guess, comes with the territory of being there representing a film. But it was heartwarming to talk to so many people who feel so passionate about the genre, as passionate as you and I, and how different people express their passion for it. Like if you go through the vendor mart, I just want to acknowledge I finally got a chance to go through, and this is the first year I ever bought anything from a vendor. And there's just so many different wild variations of merchandise and memorabilia and items celebrating the genre. There's so many different ways to express it. And I just think it's so cool to see how so many people come together and put their own talents, their own skill sets, their own abilities to use and come together and just create this massive event that really just is something to cherish and something to remember. I'll definitely remember this Houston Horror Film Festival. You and me and D. Wallace.
Oh man. Yeah. We have that picture on our socials. We just posted that. So check out the Dark Night of the Podcast Instagram and follow us if you're not following us already. And whoever gave us a 5-star rating, you didn't leave a review, but you pushed that little 5 stars because that went up. So whoever you are, thank you tremendously, because that made our little hearts swell as well. We needed that. We needed that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I need to acknowledge really quick, I listen to other podcasts at this point because I just want to see how different people are doing it. Everyone has a horror podcast. Everyone's got a different approach to it. There's a lot of things you can take away from other people. But for us to now be at over 60 star ratings and for us to be the 4.9 is kind of baller. like you don't see that. You don't see that at this point, 5 years in. And we have maintained a 4.9. I really hope, I like to think it's because you and I have such a great time doing this. But we also bring a good educational element. Like when we're talking about a title, we try to bring something more to it and actually know the material that we're talking about to a certain extent. So it just makes me feel happy. And I do want to thank everybody who has given any form of review or response. We really appreciate that. That did make our 5-year anniversary feel really great that we just got one more acknowledgement that people are really enjoying this podcast. Thank you so much for whomever did that. It was lovely to see that, to celebrate our 5 years.
If you're so inclined and you missed our 5-year anniversary and you want to give us some love, again, that 5-star rating, believe it or not, it really helps. Like I listen to tons of podcasts. Like I've mentioned this many times. I'm addicted to true crime podcasts. When you see me working out or running, I'm pumped, I'm energized. You would think that I'm listening to some hardcore techno club music. No, I am listening to true crime podcasts. But with that being said, the 5-star ratings do help, because there are, like Roger said, there are so many horror podcasts out there, and how some of these podcatchers suggest podcasts to people is by the ones that have more 5-star ratings. They get suggested to people that have searched for horror movie podcasts. So it does help. We also have our Patreon, which is alive and kicking. I just looked. We uploaded Beware Children at Play 20 days ago, so it's been almost a month.
But we set y'all up for it. You knew it was coming.
Yeah. I mean, God, that's a banger. That episode's a banger. I mean, you could listen to that on repeat and just be fucking thrilled. But for this particular review, or this particular episode, I went back and pulled from a decade that we really don't talk about a lot. I mean, we have covered films from the 70s. Absolutely we have, but not a lot. And the films that we have covered from the 70s have been the big ones, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas. And thinking about how fucking diehard of a slasher film fan I am, and I know you are as well, I can't believe that we've waited this long to cover this film, because, guys, this film really, I mean, I know Psycho came before it, Peeping Tom, but let's be honest, this film really set the blueprint for what would become the modern day slasher flick.
I had never seen this film. I have seen visuals from it that I found to be striking. There's a lot of different poster designs, poster art for this film that choose to show some pretty specific visuals that tie into the finale, or the final act of this film. So I was kind of shocked that they kind of gave certain things away in some of the poster arts that I've seen. But overall, I mean, I went in knowing very little about this film. And honestly, Troy, I was hesitant because we don't cover a lot of foreign or dubbed cinema. I love foreign cinema, but I will say there are some films where that the dubbing takes me out of it. I am one of those people. Some people don't care. It can make or break a film experience for me if the dubbing is bad enough. And unfortunately, that was an issue with a recent viewing of The Church. One of the things that really took me out of it was how bad, how unnatural that dubbing was. Asia Argento with a voice of a 56-year-old chain-smoking woman. It was weird. And so for me, there was a hesitancy, but I was like, fuck it, let's go. That's always the mentality at Dark Night, the podcast. Let's fucking go. And go we did. And you know what, Troy? I've got to say that after watching this film, I am smitten with this movie. I cannot believe how much I enjoyed this film. I think this is probably one of the finest examples of a piece of dubbed foreign cinema that I've ever seen. I mean, the voice work here is so impressive because the performances are maintained. The emotions are maintained. You never get that. Even in some of the greatest, pieces of foreign horror cinema, like even moments of Suspiria, there's a lot of moments where the acting can at times pull you out of it. And you never get that here. And I think that's so impressive. And so I want to go in on the note that, for me as someone that can occasionally get caught up in a bad dub job, this is a perfect example of when that's done right and how that can really still capture the energy and the original performances from the original cut of the film.
I would absolutely agree with that note 1000%. The dubbing in this film is really well done. The voices fit the characters. Like you said, a lot of times you'll have you can tell the voice is like of a haggard 50-year-old woman, and she's voicing like a 17-year-old girl. I feel like the voices in this film match what you would expect. On top of that, you got all the striking visuals, which we'll talk about, but we should get right into this and let the audience know we're discussing Mario Bava's 1971. We're going to call it a Bay of Blood. Okay, this film apparently has more titles than any film in history. Twitch of the Death Nerve is one alternative title. Carnage, Bloodbath, and then, strangely, Roger, did you know that this film was released for a short period of time under the name Last House on the Left Part 2? Yeah.
Like how could that even?
Well, keep in mind, think about it. It was filmed before Last House on the Left.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I know, it's so
how did
weird.
they think that was a good marketing ploy, and where? Like, do they just re-release the movie and like, oh, no one will notice? I don't know. I would notice because I think this movie is pretty fantastic. And you know, Troy really set me up, listeners. Troy set me up here saying, you know, you're going to see the influence that this film had on a lot of films to follow, specifically slasher films to follow. And I see it. I absolutely see it. But I was so thankful and so impressed with how original this story felt. It didn't feel like beat for beat the story was something that other movies were recreating. This is very much its own story. It's a great story at that. The overall intentionality behind this and why it's unfolding feels believable. It's like kind of like shitty people doing shitty things, and I buy it. And I like how fresh and just different this movie feels. This movie holds up to me. I think that even though this film is one of the earlier movies we've covered, it's crazy to me how like relevant this film feels. How like just I picture people responding the same way in the here and now to a situation like this, which is kind of unfortunate because again, shitty people.
Very shitty people. And let's be clear, like this film has its own identity. And even though the influence is heavily felt, particularly, let's just get it out there, Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th Part 2. I mean, there are two death scenes in this film that Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th Part 2 blatantly, I want to say, pay homage to. I don't want to say, you know, stole or ripped off. We'll say pay homage to. I mean, shot for shot, the exact same death. But what's really interesting about this film that sets it apart, even though it did set the blueprint for the slasher film, particularly I want to say like the summer camp slasher film, right? What sets it apart, Roger, is we don't have like one villain. Like there's no Jason Voorhees, there's no Michael Myers, there's no Leatherface. This isn't some madman stalking the woods like Mad Mad Mars or Cropsy. What you got here are multiple killers killing because of greed. And as the movie progresses, it just gets crazier and crazier. The killers are being killed. I mean, the killers become the prey. It gets really fucking crazy. But you don't have a villain. Like there's no one villain in this film that's offing these people. It's a lot of different people doing this shitty thing so that they can inherit this bay property from this old broad that we meet in the opening scene.
Oh, and we're going to get to her. We're going to get to her, and we're going to talk about her because she certainly stood out to me, that dame. I think the thing about this movie that's worth noting is it's full of revelations. The great thing about this movie is, for me, having gone in not seeing it, is there were multiple moments where I was like, "What?" In a way, it's almost like it's not a Knives Out kind of like an Agatha Christie kind of vibe to it because you are constantly guessing. Who is it? It's not always the same person. You're always trying to figure out like who it is that has like kind of taken the situation by the horns and is now in control because all these individuals are fighting for the same thing. So I really love the character motivations. I'm so excited to discuss this with you. What a great pick, Troy. I got to give you credit because yeah, I'm jazzed for this film.
Well, thank you, Roger. I'm so glad that you appreciated it because I think this film, while it's known, I think the film is definitely underappreciated. You don't hear it mentioned a lot, particularly when people talk about like slasher films. This one rarely gets mentioned, and so I thought it needs its just desserts, and I'm giving it to it right now because this film, guys, if you haven't seen it, stop the episode because this film gets fucking crazy, and I don't want to spoil anything for you if you haven't seen it. So stop. It's on Tubi. Watch it. Come back to us.
Can I tell you right off the bat, Troy, before we even jump in, because I think this is important for me. I was literally won over from the first frame of the film. I just want to say this. I want to just go in on this note. From the moment I started watching the credits, I was sold. And I want to see if you can pick up on this. We have covered a film long time ago, far more recent film. There is a film that has an opening credit sequence where the score and the overall tone of it in my mind, had to be a homage to this opening credit sequence. It's a film I love very much, but the score specifically seems so inspired by this great opening credit track. Do you know what film I'm talking about?
Like the soft percussion and the whole tranquility of the water. I definitely felt like the score felt familiar. There's a lot of beats of the score that definitely I think were later homaged. I'll use that word again. But what specific film are you thinking of?
It's the that running tempo almost, that like there's a lot of percussion in this, and it's a lot of building and swelling. Like it'll keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It instantly brought to mind the opening credit sequence from The Invitation, which is a film that I adore.
I mean,
and
okay.
there is that opening sequence. They're going through the Hollywood Hills, but it's that and it keeps like building that rhythm, and it keeps building until it becomes this big orchestral. And hearing that, I was like, it made sense to me, because The Invitation is a mystery. You're really trying to figure out what is at play here. I tonally, I definitely think that was an intentional decision to kind of pay tribute to or homage the sound here, because I think it had to be very influential. But boy, Troy, do I love the score of this film. It is powerful. It captures the emotion of the moment. When it needs to be big, it's big. When it needs to be quiet, and it's nothing but fucking ambiance and sound effects. They are very smart with how they incorporate the score here, and the silence, the still of the moment. And I think that is something that pops right away with this movie.
Yeah, there are some very, I would say, heavily, even though it's a beautiful score, there are some chilling moments with the score, particularly after probably the most famous 10 minutes death sequence from any slasher movie, if we're going to go there, because of how it influenced films that come after. After that happens, you go back to the bay, and it's just this very piano driven soft score that's just, it's striking because of the violence that we just witnessed, and then the score transitioning into something more just beautiful, and it's really unsettling in a way. But yeah, I can see that. The Invitation, Roger, that's going way back. That was like episode 2 or 3. Wow. We were babies then. I haven't even listened to any of our first 10 episodes for so long, because I know they're not good. But
we're going to double dip it. We'll have to come back and revisit it.
We did with Hellbent. I think we should do, we always talked about redoing our first couple episodes, because we know we were starting out a little bit rough. But what doesn't start out rough? Fucking Bay of Blood. You got that beautiful score. You spend a lot of time just taking this beautiful scenery. One thing I also want to point out is this film is very smart, because it's mainly one location, right? And so it's just beautiful. It's setting the tone really well. And then you see that mansion, this giant house that's on the edge of the bay, and we go into the house, and we see this wheelchaired broad, Countess Frederica. And, the movie there's no dialogue in this, like for the first 10 minutes. You really get a long shot of her just wheeling through this house. Thunder is starting to roll, so she goes and looks out the window. It's all very peaceful. You think she's by herself. You don't see anybody else. She's just going through the motions of getting ready for bed. She shuts off her lamp. And then as she wheels herself through her archway, she lets out a gasp, and we see someone throw a rope around this old woman's neck, kick her out of her fucking wheelchair. Her wheelchair goes flying down the hallway, and this old woman is literally hanged. And the way they do it, particularly like when you keep seeing the dead body just hanging there, it's very, very striking and disturbing looking. But it's shocking. Your first 5 minutes, you're killing off an old woman.
It is shocking. It's shocking, and it's startling too, because you're like, are they going to kill this melodramatic old broad? She's wheeling around. It's such a melodramatic role. This is the role for me, Troy. Not a single line, but boy, do they give her some face time. She's got some lines later. She comes back in a flashback. But then this whole hanging, it's just the way it's orchestrated. Like, she looks like she's hanging like a sack of potatoes on a rope, like you feel the weight of it. The rope looks taut. You see like her tongue sticking out as her eyes are bulging. And one thing I like here, and I think sometimes it's not intentional, but I like that you see people die. And as they die, you see chests still moving. You see people still breathing, eyes still blinking. And I couldn't tell if it was at times mistakes or honestly, like, are we seeing these people's like final moments as they're still in the midst of agony? Because she's hanging there on this rope. But when the figure walks up and reveals himself to be what is her husband, you still see her eyes connect with him. And I really love there's a moment just as the life's leaving her body where it seems very intentional. You see her eyes look up ever so slightly and then go dead. It's so effective. It's probably, Troy, my favorite on-screen hanging kill I've ever seen. It's somehow it feels very raw. The wheelchair crashing back into the wall. I mean, I'm normally not a fan of a hanging, but they really make you feel it here.
Yeah, and then you just get that wide shot of the room, and she's just hanging in the archway, and just hanging there, and it's really disturbing. It's unsettling, and yeah, you find out it's her husband that did it, and he hears something at the front door. So he goes to check it out. It's literally just the wind bashing the gate. So he goes back in and he very strategically places a note on the side table that is supposed to be a suicide note. It says, "It's over. I'm so tired. My life has no meaning anymore." So obviously he's setting this up as a suicide. When out of nowhere, he is fucking stabbed to death by somebody. Comes up behind him and stabs the shit out of him. I fucking love, I'm going to tell you, talk about shots that just are incredible. I love when his body falls under hers. And I mean, she's hanging there and she's hanging over him and he's dying under her. It's really well executed.
Oh my God. And it's very stark. I mean, when you think of horror cinema, you normally think as you're building up to the kill, once the kill hits, big score, booming score, you got some big stingers. Here, they choose to, when the moments are really starting to become suspenseful and starting to build towards something, they often decide to drop the score and just all you hear is the sound of like rolling thunder in the distance. This is also some of the greatest Foley work I've ever heard. The sound effects in this film sound so authentic and they really just enhance the moment. When people are stabbed, it's the pulpiness of the stab and you just feel it. And I mean, and the cinematography also. This is a sequence where it all comes together. I love the fact that you don't even realize there's someone behind him until the glint of the blade comes into focus. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm looking at a blade. And then it just stabs into him. And it's all very tight. Normally, with something like this, you'd think there'd be some wide shots. But because they choose to keep it so tight, it feels very uncomfortable and very just almost like kind of, I dare say, like claustrophobic. Like the room's not claustrophobic, but like he doesn't even have time to move or react or anything. He's kneeling down. And he gets stabbed in the back multiple times over. You see the blade go in over and over, and then he drops it. He just dies, and it feels like a very real depiction of how somebody would die, and that makes me feel all the more uncomfortable when I'm watching it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the standout things about the death scenes in this film is that they linger. I mean, you linger for a long time on these people dying, almost all of them. Everyone that gets killed in this film, you linger on them for a while. You do see them take their final breath. You do see them twitching. I'm wondering if Mario Bava's original title for the film, Twitch of the Death Nerve, I don't think that's just coincidental. I mean, I think he was very strategic in knowing what he was doing and how he was depicting these deaths. What is also interesting is that he, because of budget constraints, he was the cinematographer as well. He shot the movie, which to me is really interesting because he has a fucking amazing eye. I mean, some of these, like I said, some of these scene sequences are just so well done, striking, beautiful. I mean, this film looks great. It's framed extremely well. So kudos to him. I think the only other Mario Bava film I've seen is Blood and Black Lace, which is good, completely different than this one. It was a couple of years before this, but kudos for him for fucking constructing this, directing it, constructing it, and making it look. You can tell care was put into this. Like every frame, there was extreme care put into it.
It is visually, it is one of the finest pieces of 70s cinema I've ever seen. Like, it really is expertly crafted. I cannot get over how well this film is shot. And we just experienced our first death scene. I am blown away by the kills in this movie. I didn't even know what to anticipate. I didn't know what to expect. And there are several kills in this movie that should be talked about amongst horror fans. I don't understand why this isn't something that is just acknowledged on a more regular basis. Some of these kills are wild.
Here's the thing, Roger, they are talked about, but they're talked about from the movies that ripped them off. I mean, let's be honest, and we'll get to the big two here real quick. So yeah, we see he dies under his wife's hanging body, and then he's dragged away ominously by someone, dragged down to the dock. We cut to this kind of reminded me, I don't know, this gave me a Psycho vibe. The very first time you meet Marion Crane and Sam Loomis in the hotel, you kind of get that same sort of setup here with Laura, blonde, striking, beautiful Laura, and her boss. She's his secretary. They're having an affair. This is Ventura, and they're in bed. They're setting. There's a lot of. Okay, so one thing about this film is there's not a lot of characters in the film. I mean, there are, but when you think about it, there's really not. You don't get a lot of characterization in this film. You get some moment here with Ventura and Laura where he basically is giving her a hard time for questioning where he's going, and he refers to her as a squonk, like some weird animal that he's comparing her to, because these squonks they cry and sulk when they're lonely, and it gets possessive. It's really weird dialogue to introduce these characters with. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? But then you do find out he does mention, basically you're asking way too many questions for this just to be an affair with my secretary. Calm down a bit.
Yeah, and this is a relatively big moment introducing Laura. And then it's surprising to me that she really, she drops off for a big chunk of the movie. Because they really do set this up to feel like something that we're going to get a lot more of. But really, no, we're just being introduced to the first batch of characters here, which I do like. I do think that the different groups of characters get a pretty fair amount of even attention. Sometimes it'll drift off and it'll follow that group of random teenagers. Sometimes it'll drift off and follow this couple that's coming to look at the property. I mean, it doesn't feel linear in a certain way, because you're kind of drifting from storyline to storyline, but it really helps the elements of mystery and intrigue. They're very smart and very intentional. When they're going to follow a certain storyline for a period of time, it's with a lot of intentionality behind it. And I really like the way this unfolds. We're talking about, he did a really good job editing this. I think the reason this feels so fluid overall is because knowing that this was shot by the filmmaker, that tracks for me. That completely makes sense, because this doesn't ever feel incoherent. It feels very smooth. A lot of the shots that transition from moment to moment seem very intentional, very specific, lots of focus racks, lots of amazing zooms. And everything seems like it just kind of is perfectly paced. It has a really great rhythm to it.
There's some really great transitions, and then even towards the end when you get a lot of flashbacks, I love some of the transitions into the flashbacks. But yeah, you're right. This film, while it is in a sense linear, it's really not, because you're jumping around and you're spending time with these core inhabitants of this bay, which we meet. So we find out that Ventura is a real estate tycoon. He's heading to the bay because he basically wants to. He wants to buy it, right? And the Countess, when she was alive, would not sell it. So now that she's dead, and he clearly declares that the police have ruled it a suicide, he needs to go get the signature from who he thinks is the heir to the property, which is her son, illegitimate son, Simon, we find out. So that's his quest. He wants to buy the bay. He wants to transform it into like a resort town or something. So he's on his quest. Okay, so now we hard cut to who we find out is Simon. He's taking a bite out of a fucking octopus. Is that what he did? He took a bite out of it and threw it in the fucking water? I'm like, oh boy.
Who's biting into live octopuses or octopi, whatever the proper term is? Yeah, it's a real weird transition. It looks and it sounds very gross, but it really threw me off a bit seeing him just gnaw into that thing.
Yeah, and he just tosses it aside. There's someone watching him with binoculars. We do get the binocular perspective. And as the person's watching with binoculars, we do see Fasati, Paul, we'll call him Paul Fasati, who lives also on this bay and is obsessed with insects. Because what he's doing is he's running through the woods with a net, trying to capture the specific insect. And Simon starts laughing at him because he's, oh, you're trying to catch that insect again? And Paul's like, oh, yeah, it remembers me from last time I caught it. And they get into this, it leads into this conversation about like killing. Like you kill these insects, you know, and Paul's like, well, you kill these octopus that you hunt. He's like, yes, but I eat them. You're just killing for sport. And when you kill for sport, you're a monster. And Paul's like, you know what? You're weird. You've gotten even weirder since the Countess was murdered. He says murdered. And Simon quickly corrects him and says, no, it was a suicide.
Simon is a very much intended to be an ominous presence right off the bat. Like the way they film him, they let it linger a lot of times where you see his expression change. He'll go from, there's a moment here where he's like laughing at something Paulo says, and then his face quickly drops and he instantly looks really tense. There's definitely like a hint of mental instability that exists within the guy. And they talk about it a little bit later in the film. They do mention at one point that he was raised on the property, but she never let him leave. She's extremely overprotective. And so I think some of that comes through a bit. They don't explore it to a great extent, but it is clear that there's something off about this individual. And he's immediately a red herring, but so is everybody. But also most people are involved, to be clear. But I mean, they don't shy away from it. They really just make it clear this guy there's something off about him.
There's something off about him, and we'll jump ahead because he does have a backstory. Like he is Frederica's son, illegitimate son. She had him out of as a result of an affair, right? And she would not let him leave, but she also would not let him live in the big old house with her. She actually made him stay in this shack. And he had to be the groundskeeper, and she would always keep an eye on him. So yes, this dude obviously has some issues that stem from his mother, this overbearing broad that we actually do get to know a little bit later on in the film, even though she died in the opening scene. So Ventura is on the way to the bay. He stops at a payphone to basically reassure a judge that tonight the rightful owner of the bay will have signed the property over to us, and then we can begin blasting and starting the construction on this resort town that we want to create. That's going to make us millions of dollars. And Roger, this is when we cut to, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, folks, the teenagers, as they're referred to. Yeah, there's 4 of them. I know 3 of their names. I don't know the other broad, the blonde. I have no idea what her name is. I do know we get the fucking icon of the movie, hands down, Brunhilde, that German Brunhilde. Brunhilde. And then you got what is his Duke, right?
Bobby.
And Bobby, is Bobby the one with that awful hair?
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
That helmet head. And then I don't know her name. I got
her name. I'm just where is it? I've got it here somewhere. She's got that fur jacket on.
She's not really given much to do, let's be clear. But these are teenagers, I guess, and they just happen to come upon the bay, and Brunhilde has a thing for water, And she is definitely like your hippie free spirit of the group. She immediately gets out of the car. She's running around. She, wants to go down to the water. So she makes Bobby go down to the dock with her. And in the meantime, there is this abandoned like resort that's on this property, right? That comes into play a couple times in the film. And like inside of it, there's an old dance floor. It's just an old abandoned, I'm assuming some sort of resort that used to be on this property.
These youths are up to no fucking good. I mean, the first thing you see is them driving and dancing while they're driving. The girls are covering the guy's eyes while they're driving that little green Jeep. And it seems like someone's going to die. I mean, if they didn't die getting killed in the movie, they're going to die in a car accident. But they're up to no good. And they show up at this abandoned club that apparently they've gotten word of. And they sneak on in there. And the setting is beautiful, even though it's abandoned and it's very stark looking. Once you get inside, it's such a cool space, and they use the fuck out of it. They do a really good job with it. But I do want to acknowledge, looking at the scenery, it seems to be, in my opinion, it is the very beginning of spring, probably just coming out of the winter. And Brunhilde is hell-bent on swimming. And that, to me, seems bold. Like, German women are built from a different stock, a hardy stock, and she's a hardy gal. A kraut woman, they call her, I believe, kraut girl, which seems to be very offensive in my opinion. I'm not German, but I'm guessing that's offensive. But there's something about Brunhilde because she comes in, she's dancing on that stage. That like rhythmic music's playing again as part of the score, and she's just dancing. And there's some really great cinematography as the camera's moving around her. And they do such a good job making the space feel so grandiose. I really love the locations in this film. You mentioned there's really not many locations here, but the few that you visit feel so unique. And it feels almost like you're in a different country, so that makes sense, but it feels like almost like a different time too.
Yeah, and one interesting thing you get that has been was replicated in Black Christmas, Halloween, is you get killer point of views. Like you see someone, like it's a very very much like a Friday the 13th type of, when the counselors are at the beginning of the original Friday the 13th, when Alice is walking through the woods, we see someone kind of watching her. You get that same shot here because someone is watching these teenagers from the woods. But yeah, Brunhilde, like I said, free spirit. She wants to get in that nasty pool. She's going to go down that slide, and Bobby has to stop her. And he's like, "Ew, you'll get dysentery if you get in that nasty water." And she's like, "Well, I'm going to go down to the bay then." And she does. She runs down to the dock, to the bay. We cut to Miss Fasadi, Anna, who is Paul's wife, obviously. They hate each other. They cannot stand each other.
This heavily lined woman, is that who you're talking about? With the pink curls?
She's obsessed with tarot cards.
My God, every character here is such a character indeed, especially these two, and they fucking hate each other. But I find it interesting, this whole, you said like the characters are pretty like understated in the sense of how they're written. It's not like they're given a ton of character development, but I still feel like you get a damn good idea who she is. This broad Anna. She fucking loves them tarot cards. And I almost feel to a certain extent that they're implying that she does have a bit of a heightened ability. Like she senses that the kids are over at the club. Later on, there's a moment where she's over a corpse. There's a specific moment that feels like she's really trying to pick up on something. I wish it was maybe explored a little bit further because I want to know, is it real or is it not? What's the point of having that? Is there something more to it? But it does make for a fun character. Like she's like a standout personality amongst all of these different individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming she has some sort of feeling, or she pulls a tarot card that signifies that something bad is going to happen, because she does run to Paul's room, his insect room. And this dude, as much as she loves tarot cards, Roger, he loves these insects. He has insects everywhere. He's talking to him. He has them named. I think what's the one's name? Fernando. He has a he has a beetle named Fernando that he actually takes places with them and talks to him. And so his wife comes in and she's like, "Oh, I have to tell you, I had a vision. Death is coming to the island." And he's like, "Oh, shut the fuck up. You're always saying shit. None of your shit ever comes true." And they literally cannot stand each other. They can't even say one nice word to each other. He says, the only thing you can sense is that lecherous Ventura holding an orgy in his cabin next door. And she says, "Oh, you only hate Ventura for the same reason he hates the Countess, because they know how to enjoy life and you don't."
This crazy bananas fucking dialogue that has these two, like, they're both outwardly proclaiming their complete and utter disdain for each other, while she's also ominously attempting to hearken an impending doom in a very highly theatrical manner. There's just so much going on here, but I kind of love it. Like, the interactivity, the chemistry between the two of them, it's so big and theatrical, but it's really fun. And yeah, just seeing them like getting each other's throats, but she's doing one thing, he's talking about another. There's a strange relatability to it in a way, like two people living in complete misery, you know?
Yeah,
but I like what they bring to the chemistry of the film.
Particularly living in complete misery in this isolated setting. This bay area only had like three. You have the mansion that the Countess lived in, and then you have a cottage that apparently Ventura owns that's on the bay, which is why he wants to transform it. He lives there. He wants to, and then you have these two, and then you have Simon living in a shack. It's to be very isolated. He does make the comment that no, the reason he hates Ventura is because he wants to turn the bay into a sea of concrete. And then he's like, "But I won't let him, even if I have to." And then it ominously cuts away. He doesn't get to finish what he says. And then you cut to Brunhilde dancing at the club, at the abandoned club. There is that swimming pool. Like I said, she literally, Roger, is going to get in the swimming pool. The water is black and she is trying to get in, and they have to like pull her out of it.
The trees are dead around her. It is, in my opinion, probably 40 degrees. Very bold of her to go skinny dipping, because that's what she ends up doing. She goes skinny dipping in that goddamn fucking lake, and she's trying to lure this gang of cohorts over, and they're like, "Absolutely not. No, instead, we're going to go break into this very lived in, like this clearly not abandoned house or cabin or whatever it is. We're going to go break into that." And I'm like, that's illegal, what you're doing. This is a very bold decision to just go break into this random house. It's one thing to be hanging out in an abandoned club. It's another thing to break in and start drinking this guy's alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, they have no shame. This is Ventura's house. It's a cabin, and they just bust right in. In the meantime, yeah, Brunhilde, she disrobes. I mean, full frontal, full everything, bush. Well, no bush, which is for the 70s very surprising, Roger, because her vagina is bare, as smooth as a baby's bottom. I was expecting a 70s. I was expecting a 70s big old bushy vagina, but nope. She's smooth. She gets in that fucking lake. She's swimming around. Her foot gets caught on a rope as she's trying to get out, and we go underwater and we see that the rope is tied to the body. And so she like breaks the rope off her foot, and as she's climbing out, it causes the body to float to the surface, and you get that moment as she's climbing out that it floats and the hand touches her bare ass. And she looks down and she fucking screams bloody murder and takes off running out of the lake butt ass naked. She does get her clothes. She puts them half on. And you know, she's sprinting through the old abandoned club. She's screaming for Bobby. She stops because she hears a noise and she's like, "Bobby, please, you have to help me. There's a dead man in the bay." And then she must see somebody because she gasps and takes off running. And she's every few seconds she turns around and it's like as the person's getting closer, and you get the really cool shot of her darting towards this house that the other kids are in, and right as she is about ready to get to the door, the person catches up with her and has that gnarly looking knife. It's called a bill hook apparently, and reaches around in front of her, slices her throat clean open, and then hacks the back of her neck. Like, whoosh. and she collapses, and it's brutal, violent. She's on the ground twitching and writhing in pain, and it just lingers for a long time on her, just going into death throes before she finally just goes still.
This whole sequence is truly spectacular. I mean, from the development of her foot getting caught in the rope to unlodge the body, which is really kind of what sets off. This is what sets off their fate. The kids is the fact that the body is discovered, and that gross, creepy moment of this like swollen, waterlogged corpse just slowly kind of creeping towards her, and then it touches her, and that shot of her looking down through the ladder and seeing it. The vulnerability of that chase sequence, her being nude, her getting her dress on, but her dress isn't even fully on. Like the rest of the chase, her bare ass is showing. It's just, she's extremely exposed. But this chase, I mean, I love the moment when she gets inside of the club and everyone else is in the house. And so she's in the club. And that's when she starts to sense that someone's following her because she hears a door slam. And she looks over, and for a moment, when you're looking at from her, her angle, her point of view, looking at the door, you see a shadow move across the door, like there's someone moving. But they're so precise and specific about what they do and do not show. You never even see if it's a person. You don't know who it is, but there's someone moving in the next room over, and they're just very selective about what they give away. And the way they edit this, it works. And that final pursuit of her on the hill, and she's not going to make it. She's in those slip-on little heels, running up that hill. Like I said, her bare wet ass flipping and flopping all over. And when that hook catches up and slices her throat, and just seeing that thing dig into the back of her skull, like it's very, very just brutal. Like I don't think I expected the kills to go so hard. So when it happens and you see that big open wound in her neck and she drops to the ground and she's spasming and her chest is still breathing, but she's bleeding out as you would, because you wouldn't die right away as you're bleeding out. It is really, like, it's uncomfortable to watch. It there's almost a snuff-like quality to it in a way, because it is so you're constantly from the point of view of the killer. It feels like you're watching somebody like meet their fate. You're actually seeing it happen. It's so well crafted. I adore the sequence. When we talk about great chase scenes, I'm shocked this doesn't come up more often, because what a payoff too.
Well, yeah, and the effects. I mean, this was 1971, and this was a full almost 10 years before Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th a lot of times gets a lot of the credit for being the first true gore-soaked slasher film that really made the special effects and the death set pieces, the murder set pieces, the forefront of the film. Friday the 13th gets a lot of credit for that, and let's be clear, there are some really great deaths in Friday the 13th, but you're looking at this a decade earlier. And some of these effects, I mean, are just jaw-dropping to even today, particularly like this next kill. I mean, this stretch of 10 minutes, I would say pulling this stretch of 10 minutes solely with the teenagers and their demise. I mean, this is the stuff that really set the framework for the modern day slasher film. There's no doubt, because this next death scene is recreated in Friday the 13th, part 1 and 2, basically. Night has fallen, and nobody seems to really, care where Brunhilde is, because they're, Bobby, Duke, and that blonde are in the house, and Duke and the girl are having sex in the bedroom. They go in the bedroom to have sex. Poor Bobby, there's somebody outside approaching the house. They knock a flower pot over intentionally. Bobby gets up with that big fucking helmet head of his, helmet hair, and he goes, just innocently. This happens so quickly, and I can't imagine it being 1971 and being in an audience and seeing this happen. He opens the door and doesn't even have time to react. I mean, he gasps, but that fucking billhook slams into his face. And let's be clear, it does not cut away at all. You get him falling back with the thing embedded in his face. This looks incredible now. Mm-hmm. Now, this still looks fucking horrifying. And, they did the same thing like Marcy in Friday the 13th. She gets the hatchet in her face. Very similar. And then the other death from Friday the 13th part 2 that obviously was inspired by this is when Mark, the guy in the wheelchair, gets the machete in his face. Very similar. But wow. I hadn't seen this movie for a long time. I mean, I knew this happened, but even seeing it now, like watching it for this episode, I was like, holy fuck, this looks insane. The blood everywhere. And then to top it off, the killer pulls it out of his face.
Yeah. The effect is fucking amazing. I mean, it really is. And the specific detail to it, I love that as he's falling backwards, his eye blinks. But I mean, it's like it literally, the blade is sliced through his eye, but you see the lid move, and it looks so real. I'm like, oh my God, like it's such a great effect. Leading up to this moment, there's a specific shot I just want to acknowledge and get your thoughts on it. So as the sun is setting, there's a shot that transitions. It starts on Brunhilde's body and it pans up to the door. And just as it pans up, you see her blink. And I was like, oh, I just caught an error. But now, also then after seeing this kill with this hook through the face and seeing him blink as he's dying out, I bleeding out and dying, I'm like, was that error or is that like intentional? Like, are they still showing, is Brunhilde still out on the lawn? Literally like final gasps, final breaths, is still conscious. So for me, I'm like, I don't even know if it's a mistake because I really think that feels specifically timed. I almost kind of think he wants to linger on those moments. He wants to emphasize the pain and like the drawn out agony that comes with someone dying. People don't just get hit with a fucking axe and they drop and they're dead, unless it's like a brain trauma and they drop and that's it. People go down and they're moaning in pain and they're bleeding out and their heart stops beating and their chest stops moving and their eyes go glassy and then they're dead. And I think that that's truly like one of the coolest aspects about these deaths is you see how long it takes for people to die from these various injuries.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the whole thing is like lingering on these deaths. I don't think a film had ever done that before. I mean, linger on the pain and the twitching and everything that's involved with dying. So, while it could be very well could be a mistake, the fact that we're discussing that it might not be, I think shows the effectiveness of what he was trying to pull off here and showing that death is not easy. I mean, there are a couple death scenes in the film. Let's be clear. There are a couple death scenes in the film that are a little bit not great, but not all of them can be great, right? I mean, so yeah, so poor Bobby is dead. I mean, he has that hatch. The thing is ripped out of his face. The killer like just pushes his body aside, goes into the house, and he notices. It's all POV. We don't know who the killer is at this point. We're getting a POV, much like Michael Myers walking through the house up to his sister. That he sees in the room that this couple is having sex. There's a spear that came into play earlier in the film because Duke's actually, when he breaks into the house and comes out to let Bobby and the girl in, has that wooden mask and the spear that was decor for the house. So the spear is up against the wall. Couple's having sex. The killer goes in with the spear. And by God, this is the exact same, shot for shot, exact same death that Jeff and Sandra get in Friday the 13th Part 2. It's exactly the same. Shot the exact same way. Am I remembering this right, Roger? You've not seen Friday the 13th Part 2?
I've never seen Part 2.
My God, horror fans,
I know.
You better rip him a new one because how have you not seen Friday the 13th Part?
You've always had your favorite, and I've always been like waiting for it to be an episode because you know that I'm not a Friday the 13th gal. That's normally not my go-to, but I've come to appreciate it far more through Troy's eyes.
It's
like Helen Keller leading me. He's leading me through it. But yeah, I need to watch it for this.
I will pick it. It's coming up. It's coming up in the next couple episodes. We're doing it because wow, especially after watching this, I would love to see your opinion on the same scene recreated in Friday the 13th Part 2. But yeah, the spear goes through both of them. It comes out of the mattress, the bottom of the mattress, and hits the floor. and they're impaled. And yeah, you linger on it. I mean, you get her clawing the sheets and clawing at his body, and I mean they're twitching, and it's just lingering on it before they both go still.
I love a lot of things about this. I love the setup. There's this great long just pan across the whole length of the living room as it moves towards the door, and all of a sudden the camera lands and it focuses on the crack between the door, and you see them having sex. One long smooth fluid shot from the spear over to the door. I love it. And as the killer enters, like, this film has definitely taken its time with several moments, but here there's no beating around the bush. The killer just walks in. She's on top of dude. She's riding them. They never even know what's about to hit them. There's no real buildup here other than the killer just slowly moving in behind them. They're fucking, and then that spear goes through them. And I love the audible reaction here. There's her death grunt specifically is truly it just you feel it. Like, you feel like that is how somebody would sound if they were getting a spear plunged through them, and you hear like the gasping and the wheezing, and the camera pulls back to reveal the wound. And I really love the effect that they have for like the insertion of the wound. You see the hole in her torso that the blade's coming out of. It looks very good. What a great effect. Yeah, really, truthfully, some of the kills in this, we're talking about, Friday the 13th being almost 10 years after this. And I think some of these kills, honestly, go harder than some of the gore effects in Friday the 13th. For this to be early 70s and have this kind of quality of effects makeup, I'm shocked that we don't celebrate this title more.
And then you get that moment of just the piano music and the moonlight kind of shrouding the water, and it's very almost it's a peaceful score. It's lulling. It's like a lullaby, and it's so weird to have that come after such brutality, and again, it's a little bit unsettling. So back at her house, Anna is still playing with the tarot cards, and she turns over a card that freaks her out. So she goes to look for Paul, but he's not there. But she does notice that he just impaled a beetle with a pin, and the beetle's moving, still moving. And she's like, ugh, and she walks away. She goes outside to look for him, only to see that someone has gotten the teen's car and is driving it away. Obviously. You have to cover your tracks, right? Get that car out of here. Nobody needs to know they're there. So now we meet who I would say are probably the protagonists of the film, and we're well over halfway into it before we meet these two. We get Albert and Renata. These are the two people that we've realized we're watching Simon in the Binoculars early. This is a real weird, like, I like these two. I think actually the actress that plays Renata is very striking. She's beautiful. But this is so weird. They have two kids that the husband, Albert, I guess he has a thing about leaving kids. We didn't have kids to leave them with somebody else, because she makes the comment, oh, we could have left them with my sister. And he's like, no, you don't leave your kids with other people. But instead, Roger, they leave their kids in an RV that's just parked on the side of the road. He's like, I think I got him to go to sleep, and they pull away. These kids are not asleep, because when the parents pull away, the kids are looking out the window and all excited that their parents left them.
And the parents are going out for like an evening of distractions. I mean, like, they're not coming right back. Like, they're on a mission. They got shit to do. They got people to meet with. They're going to fucking get this bay. These people are here for the bay. Everyone's here for the bay. But yeah, I really like Renata. I think that she is, yeah, you're absolutely right. Striking's the right word, but I also like her presence in the film. Like, she's kind of cold. It's definitely explored that they're having some marriage issues to a certain extent. They're really butting heads. But it's a stressful situation. They're trying to figure out what their next move is. because I think they very much realize that there's a lot of people who are actively trying to get their hands on this property.
Well, what we find out is she is the daughter of the Countess's husband. Like, so she believes that her dad is missing, right? She believes that she is the rightful heir to the bay. Like if he's missing or if he's dead, she needs to find out because she's going to inherit this property. So that's why they're there. They're to look for her dad, who actually she doesn't know yet, killed his wife and then was killed. And then, if they don't find him, she's gonna claim the bay as her. She's the rightful heir. So they go and they see Paul Fasadi, and they ask if they can talk to them. So they go inside the house with him and Anna. And I do like the fact that it's so antagonistic. Anna and Renata are totally like being cunts towards each other. It's real funny. Anna is like, yeah, I don't really think Frederica really killed herself because she loved life and her money. There's no way she would have left either one of them. And then Paul is being like super weird. He pulls out his beetle, Fernando, that he has. He's like, oh, say hello to Fernando. Oh, and Renata, just so you know, your husband or your father was vice-ridden. She's like, what do you mean vice-ridden? And he says, women and gambling. And then he had this bright idea to transform the bay into a resort town, which was doomed to fail because the bay, he says, is full of insects. And then she shoots back right then. She's like, well, it's definitely a place for both of you then. And she basically is like, I came to find out about my father's disappearance, not to hear any judgment passed on him by you two. And Paul says, well, you know what? If your father's dead and you inherit the bay, I really hope that you won't turn it into a resort. And then this is when Anna chimes in and says, well, just so you know, girlie, inheriting the bay might not be as easy as you think it's going to be because Frederica has a son. He lives on the property. He's lived on this property his whole life, so it's probably going to go to him.
There's a lot of exposition dropped in this dialogue, but it's handled in a way that's almost like gossipy. Anna handles a big chunk of it, and she's really entertaining. So even though they're throwing a lot of information at you, it's still fun. Like I don't feel like it doesn't bog the movie down with too much exposition. But yeah, you learn that Simon is basically going to be the one thing standing in the way for them to get the property. And so like now they have to kind of figure out how are we going to handle that. So Anna recommends they meet with Frank, with Ventura, local architect, as he was close to her father. And so she basically suggests that, go talk to him. He may know where your father is.
Yeah, so they're going to take off. They are going to get in the car, and Paul says, no, take that path. It's literally 2 minutes. So they're walking down this very dark path, and when Paul goes back inside, when he goes back inside, Anna notices his hand is cut. He has like a bandage on his hand, and she's like, "How did that happen?" He says, "Oh, I cut it with my own knife." Again, trying to paint red herrings because we still don't know who killed the kids, right? That's still a mystery, or who killed Renata's father at the beginning. So on the way down, Albert is like lamenting the fact that now there's no way this is going to work out for us because if the Frederica has a son, she is the rightful owner of the bay. If she's really his son, it's going to go to him. Like this is pointless. This isn't going to work out for us. And she tells him, "You're giving in too easy, Albert. You're giving in too easy. There's only one obstacle now between us and inheriting the bay. What's the one obstacle? Well, it's Simon." So Simon and Ventura come out of the cabin and they see Albert and Renata walking. So Ventura tells Simon to go down and see who they are and what they want. So Simon goes down to the dock. Albert and Renata are there and they're questioning him about, do you know my father? And Simon's adamantly like, no. She's like, I find that hard to believe. If you've lived on this island your whole life, he was married to the Countess. He owned, this was his bay. And he's like, no, it was Frederica's. she's like, well, yeah, but he was her husband, and you really have not seen him? And he's like, no. And in the meantime, she's noticing there's this octopus. This fucking Simon and octopuses, I'm telling you. Giant octopus like moving around in his canoe, and there's something covered with a blanket that the octopus seems to want to try to get at. So as Simon, at the same time Simon's saying he's not seeing her father, she reaches out and pulls up the blanket, and lo and behold, it's her father's dead body, discolored, bloated, and that fucking octopus is like falling all over its face. It's really disgusting. It's slimy. It makes me want to gag.
It's so cool. It's so cool. This fucking octopus tentacle. It's a real fucking octopus.
It is.
Oh my God. And this corpse, it just looks so realistic. And it's so, it immediately should be off that Simon was not saying anything when the corpse is there. And then they're like, oh my God, what is he doing there? And his response is, I found him in the sea or something like that. It's really abrupt. And I'd be like, dude, well, you fucking clearly know that that's what I'm talking about. Why would you ever tell me anything other than the fact that you just found this corpse there? Why wouldn't you just tell me? I'm sure you could come up with a better lie than just ignoring it. And it just makes me very frustrated. Simon is probably my least favorite character in the film. And it's not because he's played poorly. He's just unreasonably cunty. He's just a fucking prick. And I don't know. It seems like the response here, I would be like, get the fuck out and get away from this guy. He clearly killed the dude. And it would be my takeaway. But instead, they decide to rush Renata up to Frank's house and just go inside and lay her there because she's clearly reacting poorly to seeing her father's bloated corpse. So that was kind of a weird choice, but okay, I get it. We need to get her somewhere because she's about to swoon. But it just seems not the best option, all things considered.
No, yeah, I found this moment really, I don't know, odd. I don't know how I would have wanted it to play out, but it's a little unsatisfying because, yeah, obviously he did something to her father. And yes, she's upset, but nobody confronts him. Like they don't, I guess because they know they have a plan. I guess they're not going to go call the police because that would derail everything. But yeah, they're so like nonchalant about it. Like, she's obviously upset. She has to rush. She's gagging. He takes her to Ventura's house, sets her down, and she tells him just to go get the car so that they can get out of there. And this is when he rushes out to get the car. She goes into the bathroom to clean up, and there's this shock moment where, she turns on the light and she looks in the mirror and she sees the bodies of all four teenagers sprawled in the bathtub behind her.
I fucking loved this moment, Troy. Oh, I love it. Like just the way they handled it. And like, it's, she goes into the bathroom, it's dark and you're just kind of seeing the reflection in the mirror of that there's something behind her. And then she turns around and you have that long shot panning over all the different corpses. It was just, I don't know. It really got me. This moment, I was like, ooh, perfect. This is exactly what we needed. Corpse reveal. But I think what's really interesting here is like, from the way they're handling this, you think, okay, this is it. Renata is going to be the final girl. Clearly, she's had a corpse reveal. We know that her father is dead. There's no way that she's a villain. I really think like the twists that are about to come up and how they handle them, which are pretty abrupt. I think it takes a really interesting approach to the material, but right now, the way they're painting it, like you really think she's going to be the hero. And it's shocking to find that's not the case very soon.
No, because she's ruthless. Let's be clear. She is ruthless. But yeah, there is a brief moment where you do think this is, wow, she's in danger. She's going to be, pursued. She's the damsel in distress, right? Because what ends up happening is she turns to leave the bathroom and blocking her path is fucking Ventura holding a hatchet. And she slams that bathroom door shut immediately. And he's trying to get in. Like he wastes no time trying to get in. And she's smart because she grabs scissors from the counter and the bathroom door has like a pane of glass in it. And this bitch wastes no time. She stabs right through that fucking glass into his leg, stabs his femoral artery, which causes him to be a injured mess for the rest of the film. But she's able to get away from him that way. Smart girl. But yeah, again, at this point, you think you're rooting for her, right? You're like, yes. You're going to be the one that takes all these people down. Albert runs into Anna, who tells him, "Hey, what's going on? I heard your wife screaming." And he tells her that they found Anani's body in Simon's boat. So of course, her nosy ass is going to go down there to. This movie's starting to kick into high gear now. This is going fast because Albert gets back to Ventura's cottage in the car just as he sees Paul come running out in a frenzy, panic, calling for help. And he goes in. We see his face gasp. And he goes back outside and finds Renata to tell her, "Oh my God, look what they did to Ventura." And she says, "No, I did that. I didn't have a choice." And then she's like, "You need to go stop him, Paul." She's referring to Paul, before he calls the police and ruins everything. And he says, "Well, what do you want me to do?" She's like, "You know what to do. He cannot call the police." So Albert goes after Paul as she notices Anna snooping down on the shore.
Anna's walking around looking like a Kate Bush music video.
My God, yeah, that cape she's wearing.
Oh my God, dramatic. Oh, and she is full of intensity and just high stakes drama, which pays off because, yeah, this film is really hitting a fever pitch. Everything's overlapping. It's so interesting and so intricate, and it jumps from like character to character. You jump back to Paolo getting back to the house and going to call the police. Like, all of these things are happening simultaneously, and it really makes just for a wonderfully paced final act.
It's fast. It's frenzied. Yeah. Paul gets back to his cottage. He gets the phone book to call the police. I'm like, oh wow, remember, I guess they didn't have simple 911 back then. You had to get the phone book to call the police. He's searching through the phone book and he calls the wrong number at first and they has to redial, but before he can redial it, Albert comes up behind him and proceeds to strangle him with the phone cord. So now we are realizing Albert and Renata are not the, helpless victims that we think they're going to be. They're in on this. They're ruthless. They're doing whatever they can to get this bay. This is probably the most underwhelming death in the entire film. Let's be honest. It's a strangling with the phone cord, and it's one of those stranglings where it surprises me because he has let every other death scene linger. And this is one of those stranglings where the person dies within like 20 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, really? But I guess, hey.
Yeah. I think the shock factor here is really supposed to be more in who's doing it, because he does not cut away. Everyone else up to this point, you have not been able to identify who the killer is. So this kill, it is very clear it's Albert, and I think he is trying to intentionally make it clear, oh, nothing is what it seems right now. You're going to be completely thrown off your ass with this revelation, because overall, for the most part, the kills really do kick ass. So if there's one or two that are meh, like, I can roll with it, because the strong kills in this film are some of the strongest that I've seen in a very long time.
Absolutely. I guess I was expecting a little bit more with this character and his demise, because I wouldn't say he's been a major character, but we've seen enough of him, but yeah, so he's strangled with the phone cord. Now we cut. All of a sudden, we forgot about her because she's been gone the entire film. Blonde Laura is making her way to the bay because she needs to meet up with Ventura. She stops at that gas station. She calls his cottage. Of course, he doesn't answer. At the same time, Anna, in her cape, goes into the cottage and she finds Ventura on the floor. And she's taken everything in. It is like, this is the moment you talked about earlier where you get the feeling that she's sensing something. She sees the wound on his leg. She looks over and sees the scissors, and she kind of gives this look, really interesting look. It's almost like a look that's like, I knew it. Like, I knew this was going to happen. But before she can do anything, Roger, her head is hacked off with the axe that Ventura attacked Renata with. I mean, hacked completely off. We see the bloody neck stump. Let's be clear, not the best effect. Not the best effect. But for a 1971 decapitation, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Give them credit for trying. And it is shocking because you're like, oh, I'm expecting some really big revelation from this dame. She's been, hawking her tarot cards and her ability to sense impending doom, and you really think that she's going to have some big revelation with this moment, but before she can actually put it into words, her head's knocked off. And it's not the best effect, but like it still looks good enough that I'm like, cool, fucking cool, all right, I'm fine with it.
I mean, it looks yucky. It looks, the neck wound looks, pulpy and, pumping out some blood. I love the fact that it just hard cuts then to those two fucking brats dropping a ceramic bowl, because I guess we have to be reminded that these kids are still around, right? I mean, it's such a weird thing to cut to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you see this woman get her head cut off, and all of a sudden you're hard cut to a kid dropping a ceramic bowl back and he's like, "Oh, pick it up, mom and dad are gonna get mad," and that's it. Like, that's what you cut to, and then you basically Albert finds Renata again and tells her he killed Paul. And she says those two could have saved their lives if they would have minded their own business. At least now there's no witnesses. So she is the one, Roger, that cut poor Anna's head off.
For her. I love that for Renata. Like, not fucking around. I'm getting that bay.
Yeah, she is cold as ice. She has I don't think that she has no remorse, no regrets that they are killing people. He does. He seems to not want to do this and to realize this is probably a bad thing. And she's like, "Oh, you're just being an old maid. Quit being an old maid. I have no intention of losing the bay. And we have one more thing standing in the way of us, and that's Simon." So now they're on a mission. They do stake him out, and they see him. And what he's doing is he's carrying her dad's body back to the water to toss it off the dock. So at the same time, Laura shows up, and she goes into Frank's cottage, Ventura. She sees him injured. Now I thought he was dead, but he's apparently still alive because he crawls out of the room and tells her to go get Simon and bring him back immediately. So she rushes to Simon's shack, goes inside. Simon appears behind her and basically locks her in. And she says to him, "Why are you locking me in?" And he is like, "You fucking bitch. You convinced Donati to kill my mother. And you were ready to marry him and screw over Ventura. You're a whore. You're a slut." She's like, "No, you got it all wrong." And he has that fucking billhook. Outside, Albert and Renata have stumbled upon this and are listening. And she pleads. She's like, no, Simon, you got it all wrong. I only met your mother one time and I liked her a lot. It was Ventura's all Ventura's idea. She's trying to save her ass. And then we get the flashback of them, Ventura with Laura at Frederica's house, trying to convince her to sell the bay. And she's having none of it. None of it.
Frederica is a cold-hearted bitch, but I love her. I like that she finally gets some dialogue. She's great. But yeah, like I love how this is handled with Laura, because when you see her pleading for her life, like, she is selling it. But of course she is, because this guy's fucking coming at her with a goddamn axe or billhook or whatever the fuck it is. And she's pleading with him, and she's insisting that she has nothing to do with it. And then you cut over to this moment with her and the mom and Frank basically trying to convince the mom, and she absolutely refuses. And you're like, oh my God, I'm seeing this happen in real time. And then they're coming back and they're saying, oh, but this is what really happened. We're catching her in the lie. It's such a cool approach. I really like how they do this, and it's so smooth. I'm normally not a fan of flashbacks, like really long, drawn-out flashbacks that are going to change the pacing of the moment. But because of how they just naturally glide into it, I don't even care. It doesn't change anything for me. It doesn't slow it down. I like this moment of realization. I'm learning more about these characters. I really like this sequence.
Yeah, you learn that, Frederica has no desire to sell the bay. It's her property. She's grown up there. She doesn't want it to turn into a resort. Ventura, on the other hand, is like, lady, this could make a lot of money. And she's like, I don't care about the money. And he's like, well, what if I up the price? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, you know what? Your husband wanted to do. She's like, oh, he's an unprincipled, vulgar little man, she said. And she's like, I'm going to bed. In the meantime, and she wheels herself away. She's done with him. Snoopy Laura saw her journal open, and she actually steals the journal. And so when they get back, and Ventura's pissed, she's like, well, get a load of this. And she starts to read her diary entries. And all of them are talking about how unhappy she is with her marriage. She thinks her marriage is over. And she's like, look at this. It ends on 2/13. On February 13th reads, his heart is barren, all is finished. Oh, dear death, come swiftly, come swiftly. Ventura, you can see a light bulb click in his head. So he basically hatches the plan that is like perfect. You need to convince Donati, because Donati has a thing for you. He always has. You need to convince him in the next 2 weeks to kill Frederica on February 13th. And we will use this page as a suicide note. And then I can convince Donati to sell the bay to me, because he wants to anyways, and this will all work out. And she goes along with it. So she is not the innocent little victim that she's claiming, because we cut back to the moment and she's still telling him that she was forced to do it and that she didn't want to do it and that she would never do something like that. And you can see, like, for a moment, Simon sort of believes her, but he snaps out of it. He's like, no, I'm going to kill you, you bitch. And in the meantime, he had this boiling water on the stove that she's able to grab, throw in his face, which really, Roger, doesn't do much. Like, I'm wondering how hot this water was, because there's no redness, there's no scarring. You would think he screams, but I'm like, wait, your face looks normal. And then he proceeds to get back on top, like grab her, get a hold of her, get on top of her, and choke the shit out of her. And as he's choking her and she's dying, it does another really clever thing where it cuts back, flashbacks to her in the car with Donati, convincing him to kill his wife and that she will then marry him. They can get married. And then you hard cut back to him looking down at her dead body. And she has that horrific, I mean, her mouth's agape. It's really, actually really fucking disturbing looking.
Yeah, it is. It is. This is such a wonderfully executed reveal moment, of what the master plan was all along. Because it is very well thought out. I mean, down to the explanation of how the letter has her handwriting. Like, I love the little details. And when you realize exactly what was at play, now all of a sudden you look at Simon and you're like, oh, now I kind of feel for this guy, like, he's just pissed off that his mom was killed. His mom was a bitch. It was her property. She didn't owe anything to anybody. Like, they wanted it. They wanted to buy it off of her, but like, she could say fucking no all she wants, like, that's her property. So these individuals really look pretty fucking awful. And so you do feel like, for Simon, you really do feel like that he's the one that's kind of been wronged here. At the end of the day, really, he has killed Simon. You do find out he's killed several people, but he also is the one that got fucked over the most in this situation, I feel.
And he's the most brutal killer of them all, because we do find out he's the one that killed the teens. He killed the 4 teens. Because after he kills poor Laura, he picks up his billhook and he heads out towards the bay. And there's that moment he steps into the shed or the building, and he has flashbacks earlier that day where he's with Ventura, and Ventura comes in and sees the dead bodies and is like, dude, what did you do? And Simon says, I didn't have a choice. They would have called the police. Like, one of them found the dead body in the bay. They were going to call the police. I had to do it. And Ventura's like, fine, we'll dump the bodies in the bay later. And then we need to get you out of here. And Ventura has him sign the document. He's like, you're the rightful owner of the bay. Sign this over to me. I'll get you money. I got your passport and plane tickets. And you go live your life everything will be fine as long as you don't reveal anything. So this, I mean, there's lots of scheming going on here. And I mean, this movie can be summed up. It's just shitty people doing shitty things to each other, all for the sake of greed, all because they want this bay to turn it into a resort.
Yeah.
He hears some rattling, so he literally gets up, and there's this like long moment of him walking through this structure. The second he emerges, Roger, he is fucking impaled with a spear. Slammed up against the wall of the building, and we see that it is Albert doing it. And you get this moment. I mean, it's a long moment where like Simon's trying to hack at him with the bill hook, but he can't reach him, and he's like gagging and coughs up blood. And there's that moment he coughs blood all over Albert's hands, and that's when Albert gets shocked and lets go. And you see that he's just impaled against the side of the barn, and fucking Renata's right behind him watching the whole thing. So they just eliminated Simon. That was their last obstacle to inherit the bay.
My God, one of my favorite visuals in the film. I love how drawn out this moment is. When he gets the spear through him, and like his gaping mouth as he's thrashing his arms and swinging the blade, and you see him kind of just like bleeding out, and it's just an excruciatingly long moment. And his big open mouth. Oh, and then like as they walk away, and you see the visual of him from a distance. You see him like supported up against the wall or the door with it through him, and his legs are kind of bent. Like it's just a very striking visual. And then you just see his head drop, and it just, I don't know. It's really like for one of the final kills in the film, like it packed a punch for me. I was sitting there just like oohing and eyeing over how creepy his face looked as he was dying.
Yeah, I love that moment where his head just finally falls limp. It's really, really cool. It looks really cool. It's really well done. Mission completed. So now all I have to do is go find the will that left the property to Simon so that they can destroy it. So they go back into Ventura's. They're looking through drawers. She says she's going to go look in the bedroom. The second she steps out into the bedroom, he finds it. Albert finds it. But then all of a sudden she screams, Albert, and the lights go out. And there's this moment, it's complete dark. He's lighting matches, and we see basically a figure emerge, and it ends up being Ventura, still alive, attacks Albert, and poor Renata can just watch on. Because it's dark, you don't know who's getting the best of who. And you just see like one of the figures get on top of the other one and stab. And Renata's there, and she says, Albert? And then, again, does something really clever. Hard cuts to the morning. It's daylight now. Albert is burning the will. So Albert was able to kill Ventura. He's burning the will. They're ecstatic. She thinks they're inheriting the bay. She's like, okay, we'll leave. We'll come back after the police have been here and kind of clean the place up, and this place will be ours. And they hug just as you hear their kids, Roger, yell, Mommy, Daddy. And the fucking little boy has a shotgun and shoots both of his parents dead. I remember the first time seeing this, I was like, what the fuck? But what's really weird is that they think that the gun was fake and that they're playing dead, because the little bucktooth girl, she's like, gee, they're really good at playing dead, aren't they? What? Where did this come from? Like, where did the gun come from? What kid points even a play gun at their parents and pulls the trigger?
You know, I mean, I love seeing some comeuppance. And after that, like, whole drawn out great final swell, like, you know, the final build of what was the finale. And that was a very interesting cut. And I do like that harsh cut into the next day, in the middle of kind of revealing who survived the attack. For that sequence, it's just this really great moment of him walking around with like the lighting the matches, taking its time, the whole thing's flooded with darkness. You don't know where she is for a moment, and all of a sudden, in the midst of the darkness, he's attacked. And they were so intentional with how they played that out. And then as she's like, she's calling out to the figure as it's rising up in front of her, not sure who it is. I love how they cut to the next day, but then for it to end on such an abrupt note, I don't know. I don't know how it sits with me. Part of me is almost I like seeing them get their comeuppance as well, because you feel like they definitely had it coming. But it also feels like nothing in this film has felt forced so far. And this tonally just feels very forced. And after such a great sequence, a very just serious, played very just straightforward, no sense of humor to that final arc whatsoever, to suddenly end it on a note that seems like it has an element of like levity to it, like the humor in the darkness, the humor in the murder of the parents. Like there's an element of, I think, an element of tongue-in-cheek humor with that, but I don't need that here. I don't want that here. I wanted this to end either them getting away with it and being like, fuck it, like they kind of earned it, or them getting their comeuppance, but like in a fashion, in a manner that feels a lot more serious and a lot more satisfying,
Yes. The ending doesn't sit well with me, and I think you nailed it. It's tonally, it's not in line with anything we've seen, particularly this moment where the kids are like, oh, they're playing dead, let's go down to the bay, and you get that really corny music that starts to play. And I'm like, this does not feel like the same film. Yes, I would have get their comeuppance. That's great, but you could have done it in any other way. Like the police show up just out of nowhere. I don't know. The car they drive away and a fucking car smashes into them. Like we got in the bay. Remember when the doctors or the police officers driving away and the car smash, something like that. I don't know, but having their kids who seem old enough to like know better, then it doesn't sit well with me. I think the ending is by far, I get what they were going for. I really do. I just don't think it works for me. I think the ending it doesn't ruin the movie, but it definitely leaves me with a little bit of an unsatisfied feeling, considering how great everything else before the ending is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. I mean, and it's a minor gripe overall, I would say. I'm not like, pissed off over it, but it is kind of like, oh, okay. I'll accept it for what it is. But everything that came before it was so fantastic. I really have very few complaints about this film. And like I was saying, the final build-up to that last battle between the two men is just so intense and suspenseful and dark and shadowy. Like, I just, I feel like they could have picked an ending that tonally felt like a more thought out conclusion to the story that we just saw unfold,
Yeah, I guess they figured, I don't know. The kids didn't even need to be in the movie, let's be honest. I mean,
not at all.
The kids are there now, we know, for a very specific reason. It's for this moment, and you didn't need that. Like I said, there's so many the film has been so creative up to this point. There's so many other ways that these two, if you wanted them to get, the comeuppance, there's so many other ways you could have done it that would have felt more in line with the rest of the film. But again, it doesn't ruin the film for me. It's just, I don't like the ending at all. I think it's stupid. But other than that, I mean, the film itself, gosh, I'm so glad I revisited this film. It had been a while since I'd seen this, maybe 15 years. And I'm telling you, watching it now, it still feels fresh. I mean, yes, the film definitely inspired. You cannot argue that this film did not inspire the slasher genre. Like this is probably the granddaddy of true slasher films. It really is. Like, yes, you can say Psycho is a slasher film, but this is a true, like when you're talking true, what we recognize as a slasher film, body count. I think there's 13 deaths in this film. This is it. You weren't seeing stuff like this before. You weren't seeing a group of people being utilized at like the 4 teens in this film are for fodder for a killer. That's become a cliche now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this film did it, and it baffles me that more people don't discuss this film because I do think it's so heavily influenced some of our favorite films from the genre.
Yeah. Well, I'm someone who had no fucking idea. So thank you for bringing this into my life because, yeah, I very much enjoyed this film. And, um, we definitely have our reviews that are more comedic. And then we have our reviews that I think are just more coming from a fanboy stance almost. And for me, like I would say I've definitely become a big fan of this film after watching it. And I will revisit it many times again. I watched it multiple times back to back, excited to do so. So thank you for picking this. I think this is a great call.
Well, thank you, listeners. Now you get to chime in and let us know your thoughts on Bay of Blood, Twitch of a Death Nerve, Last House on the Left Part 2, I guess, at some point. What are your thoughts on this film? I mean, I'm curious. I really am. So listeners, let us chime in. Let us know your experience with this film the first time you saw it. You recognize the fact that how influential it's been on the slasher genre. Chime in on social media and let us know. And then, Roger, one final thing as we wind down, I'm curious because I have no clue. It's your pick, and we are not going to. It's not going to be 20 more days. We're gonna be right back into our normal schedule. We don't have. So I'm curious to see what I'm going to be watching from you real soon.
Yeah, I felt like we've done a couple older titles lately, and I felt like I just wanted to do something fresh, something a little more recent. And then, it's very obscure, but one of the actresses from this film did recently pass away. And I was like, I feel like this is the time to acknowledge this title because it definitely has a big fan base, especially a lot of the gays, despite the lead actress being a bit of a pill to deal with. But we're going to cover Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell.
Okay. Alison Lohman. I feel like she's just doing conventions or something. I saw. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like Drag Me to Hell. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember fondly. I mean, there's some very striking scenes. That old broad, of course. That's
She
the one
just
who I
died.
know. I was gonna say R.I.P.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that'll be a fun one to talk about. Yes, for sure. I'm excited. Drag Me to Hell. That's a great choice. Great choice.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. So
Me too. Even though Alison Lohman is a big old Donald Trump supporter, we're gonna make it work.
We'll get through it. We'll get through. I mean, she hasn't done anything since. It's not like she's experiencing like phenomenal success since the movie. I mean, I think she dropped out of acting willingly. Although, like I said, I saw her announced as a guest at a convention, so maybe that's where she's going to start making some extra money. But yes, let's discuss Drag Me to Hell next week. Again, guys, thank you for all your support. Give us a 5-star rating if you're so inclined. Write us a review even. We'll actually shout you out if you write us a review. And let us know your thoughts on Bay of Blood. And tune in next week for Drag Me to Hell. Good night.
Good night.